When Honda added electrification to the CR-V, I knew I wanted to take a look because the CR-V is Honda's top-selling vehicle right now. In fact, it is their top-selling SUV. So by adding electrification to this SUV formula, has Honda got another winner on their hands? Let's find out. Honda takes a pretty unique approach to the way they actually put together their hybrids. A lot of other manufacturers use an electric motor to kind of supplement the power. Honda actually uses two electric motors in this and they're sandwiched together. One of them is a generator and also starter, and the other one provides propulsion. So the hybrid is also an all-wheel drive system. Some other vehicles put an electric motor in the back, but Honda approaches it a little bit differently. They have a prop shaft that brings the power from the front all the way to the rear wheels. And the way it decides to add power or take power away really depends upon the road conditions and how much acceleration you're asking for. They've also told us that they have optimized this for snowy conditions. So if you live in the Northeast, that's really pretty good. Today, I don't think we can test that out. So this is the top trim level. This is the Touring, and this comes with leather seats. These are heated. I think it's got some really nice stitching here too. Overall, the quality of the materials, I think it's pretty good for the class. This is very much in line. I think it's very competitive. These seats are 8-way adjustable, but they also have a 4-way adjustable lumbar support. So if I'm doing the math correctly, that's actually 12-way adjustable. The 4-way lumbar support is actually pretty good. I like it. Now, if you do want leather, you can also get that, which is one package down, which is in the EXL. That's about $3,000 less. Another thing that the Touring package has, which is pretty nice, is a heated steering wheel, especially if you live in the Northeast. I think that's something that a lot of people have really wanted. I wanted it when I lived in the Northeast, and why didn't they have that when I was a kid? The Touring trim has this wireless charging pad. It works pretty well, but you've also got a couple of USB ports in here too. This is a 1.5 amp, that's a 1 amp. This is the one that you're going to use so you can connect to Apple CarPlay. One of the things that Honda really is good at is storage space, and this has a lot of it. You got a couple cup holders right here. You can fit your super big gulp in there, no problem. But what I think is really nice is this center storage console. So the way it works is this flips up, and you got the space over here so you can close it. But what's really nice is this tray slides back, you can flip it up, and now you've got this huge space in here. And I'm going to put in something which is way too big for the space. It's my camera bag. I've got a couple cameras in here. Put it in, and I can still close this. And look, I can actually drive with this, and it's not getting into the cabin space, at all. This is really, really good. This is a huge space. I can put like a big bottle of water in here. I can flip this down, close it, and it is completely free from prying eyes. You can put your phone over here too. Very versatile space. I think this is like a big plus, a big pro for the CR-V. So let's take a look at the back. One thing that I think is really great is this door opens super wide. So this is great for putting in a baby seat, for putting in cargo, whatever you want to put in there. It's really much wider than some of the competitive vehicles, and I think this is something that I personally really like. The back seat in this is huge. I've got a ton of room here. I'm only 5'9", and I've got tons of headroom, but look at this leg room over here. Honda says that this has 2.6 inches more than the RAV4, so that's a consideration for you. I think that's really important. This is probably the best in class legroom. And there's a ton of headroom in here too. I think if you're 6 foot tall, you're gonna have no problem at all here because it's got a little indent in here to fit your huge big head, which I have, but it's a little lower than the tall people. So in the back, we've also got leather trimmed seats. It's got a center piece that folds down like this for your cups, for your drinks. And one thing that's really cool is that the back seat actually reclines just a little bit. How nice is that? Both of them do actually. So you can chillax back here while you've got your driver up front taking you to the club. So in the back, you've got a couple of vents here. There's no separate climate control, but you've also got another 2 charging points. They're 2.5 amps, so you can just charge all kinds of stuff and take over the world with your devices. Now over here, you should have a pocket. I don't know why it doesn't have a pocket over here, because it does have a pocket over here. A little bit of a strange oversight, I think. But overall, the back seat is a very big, roomy space. It's got a ton of room, and I'd be happy to spend a road trip back here. So in the EXL trim and above, you get an electric hatch. Let's see if this works too. It's got a sensor under here, which sometimes they work. That worked pretty well. This has got a cargo cover as well, and it's pretty high quality, and it comes out really easily. Let me show you. Let's flip it down like this, and there's a little piece back here, and you flip it up, and that's it. So the lithium-ion battery is back here. It's underneath here, so you lose just a little bit of space, but there is still a ton of space in here. I can put this back in. No problem. I could put a couple roller bags in there. There's a lot of space. I love this. This is really super useful. One thing that I think is very clever, if you're back here and you want to flip the seats down to put in something bigger, all you need to do is reach in and do this. How slick is that? So probably not the ideal way to transport passengers, but if you needed to sleep over here and you want to go on a quick little camping adventure by yourself, you can actually sleep back here. This is pretty big. The infotainment system is pretty classic Honda. You do have a physical volume knob, so that's kind of nice, but all the other buttons are essentially just touch buttons. It's not that responsive, to be honest, and it's not the greatest display in the world. It is a little bit confusing to use. If you're driving and you need to change something on the screen, it's a little bit difficult to actually figure out how it works. It's just not that intuitive. Now, everything in the EX trim and above also has Apple CarPlay. It works pretty typically like Apple CarPlay. It's not wireless, you still need to plug it in. It usually connects pretty quickly, but what I would like to see would be to have Apple CarPlay display automatically on your screen. In fact, you've got to hit the button for it to pop up, but once you're there, pretty typical Apple CarPlay. Let's talk about the styling for a second. Honda wants to keep this sort of on the down low. You don't necessarily want to broadcast that you've got a hybrid, but there's something unique to this. So the CR-V Hybrid has this 5-element LED piece over here, and it's in this enclosure, which is kind of unique also to the hybrid model. Another thing that is different from the regular CR-V is this grille. It has a black shiny bit of plastic, and you got this faint little blue around the H logo there, so that tells you that it's a hybrid. And there's two more ways that you can tell it's a hybrid, and that's it. You've got a badge over here on the fender in blue, and you got a badge in the back. So it's pretty subtle, it's pretty low key, and I think Honda sort of wants to make this a real mainstream thing now. All CR-V hybrids get LEDs, but the touring package gets upgraded LED headlights, both high beam and low beam. Some other manufacturers make their styling kind of wacky and kind of interesting and kind of quirky, I think, just for the sake of it. This is really a more conventional looking SUV. I think it's pretty handsome looking. I think the side profile is really nice, and I kind of like this gray color. It's non-metallic. So Honda says their hybrid system is less complicated than others, and so it should be more durable. So let's talk about how it actually drives when you're on the road. There's a couple things I've noticed. I really like the steering in this Honda. I think it's very good. I think it's probably best in class in my opinion. Some steering systems are just too light for, for my taste. This has got some weight on it, and it definitely has a little bit of feel. And one thing I like is it really gives you a good sense of confidence when you're driving on the road. This is very, very easy to drive. There's really excellent sight lines all the way around. It's very easy to see everything in the side, the front, the back. Really great sight lines. You sit up just at a nice height. Another thing that I like a lot is that this does not drive like an SUV. This drives like a car. If you're used to driving a car and you want something a little bit bigger, this is going to be really, really pleasing to you. It drives just like you would expect it to. There's no surprises here at all. So the acceleration is not amazing. It's certainly not that fast. I've done a couple tests with it. 0 to 60 is around the 8-second range or so, and that's sort of what it seems to be. When you put it in sport mode, it does seem to have a little bit more power. Econ mode gives you the best MPG, An EV mode lets you run on the electric motor for just a short distance. And I'll explain the 3 different modes a little bit later in a different video. If you're interested in that, I'm going to link that down below. So you get a lot of that sort of engine rev kind of sound when you give it full throttle. Not like the most pleasing sound in the world, but it does accelerate pretty decently. Overall, I really like the way it drives. I have a lot of confidence driving it, and it feels really, really solid. And I think Honda has done a great job sort of just making this feel like a kind of car that you can drive, and it inspires a lot of confidence. When you're driving at lower speed, all the power is provided by the electric motor. However, as you get going a little bit faster, what can happen is that the engine can directly drive the wheels as well. And so the system is very clever. It can figure out if it's going to drive the wheels directly with the gas engine or it's going to use some of the electric engine, and it can switch back and forth. And the way it drives is actually not very hybrid-y, if that's a word. The hybrid system sounds a little bit odd, but in terms of actually driving it, the transition from the electric motor to the gas motor is absolutely seamless. You can't tell when it comes on. You can't tell when the clutch engages and disengages. It's absolutely seamless. Honda has done a really good job. It's got a very smooth, comfortable ride too. I think the ride quality in here is absolutely top-notch. Starting with 2020, every Honda has something called Honda Sensing. It's a suite of safety features, including one that I'm going to demonstrate now called Adaptive Cruise Control. So it's got a radar unit in the front, and I have just set it to the speed limit. So there's a car in front of me, and what it's doing is it's tracking the car in front of me, and it's trying to keep pretty much an equal distance, a safe distance from that vehicle. I can actually vary the distance with a button on the steering wheel to make the distance greater or less. And what happens, like right now, when we're going to come up to a stopped bit of traffic, the brakes are being applied for me, and it's taking the car all the way down to just about 0 here. I think we're going to get into some stopped traffic, so it's going to take it down all the way to 0, and then if there's not too much of a delay, we'll start driving again. So it's a pretty cool feature when you're sitting in traffic. I've been using it a little bit on and off the last couple days, and you know what? It works pretty well. It's pretty cool. I like it. There's something called collision mitigation, and the way that works is if the car senses that you are not going to be able to stop in time, let's say there's a stopped car in front of you and you don't notice it, it's going to apply the brakes, and it's going to apply the brakes as much as possible all the way to full application and try to get you stopped in time so that you don't hit the car ahead of you. There's another feature called lane keeping assist, and that's pretty much what you would expect it to be. It works pretty well on the highway, I found, and let me just activate it right now. And what happens is that there's a camera up front, and it's able to track the lines of the road through a little bit of artificial intelligence. And what it does is it tries to keep you in between those lines somewhere around the center. And if the road isn't too curvy, it does a pretty good job. You do need to keep touching the steering wheel. So let's see how it does here. It tends to, when you have a sharper corner like that, not too sharp, it tends to sort of cut over the line. So it's not great, it's not perfect, it's definitely not up to sort of what you'll call self-driving category by any means. But if you're going on a long road trip, for example, and you're getting tired and the road is pretty straight, in situations like that, I find it actually works pretty well. Let's cut to the chase. I really like the CR-V Hybrid. I think Honda has done a great job with this. It's got some really cool technology, and there's a lot of space in the back. The back seats are particularly roomy. The front seats are pretty nice too. I like the leather trim, and overall it just drives really well. It gives you a lot of confidence when you're driving it. It feels very solid. I definitely give it a big thumbs up. If you want to know more about the driving modes in this car, I've got another video linked down below. My name is Eric. Thanks for watching.